Much like I think a lot of the people who recommended this game uh, do day in and day out, I am wearing a helmet today, but this is for my protection after reading the Steam review page. Today we're going to talk about Lisa. I've actually written a song for this occasion, and I would like to sing it for you now. Sure. I know I'm about to be shit on, but you can blow it out your bum. Cause you sheep like indie 2D games more than your dad's cum. Thank you. Chaucer, Keats, a lot of real solid inspiration there. I suppose it was more of a limerick than a song. But I gotta say, sometimes I'm genuinely curious and I wonder if I'm just like anti fun. Because I know that I espouse a lot that games should be about the gameplay, and gameplay should be fun first and foremost. And if it's not, then you need a story or you need something else to compel me to keep playing. So, when a game on Steam has 10,000 reviews and only 450 of them are negative, I don't know what to do with that information if I don't like the game. Because it can't be that I'm wrong. That's not what happened. I know that couldn't be the case. So obviously the reviewers have to be wrong. But then I go and I read a review from somebody who has 80 hours on record, and all they say, and I quote, is "You save an orphanage from a fire. 10 out of 10 wholesome content." Another one, 60 hours on record, in all capitals. Good, it's good. All recommended reviews. So I go to the not recommended reviews. Stop looking for a negative review and buy the game already. Quote unquote. 11 hours on record. Interesting story, but the gameplay is highly repetitious and boring. Unless you're a big fan of turn-based combat, you should probably avoid this game. So something does seem fishy here, other than the fact that this reviewer doesn't know that the word repetitive exists, and not only does it exist, but it's recommended. It's the same as the negative reviews on fucking Bosley that say that they love bald heads just the way that they are. While I appreciate the sentiment, my hairline is no less French because of your review. I need to know if I need to do this thing or not do this thing. That's the purpose of a review. You not recommending it and then telling people that they should buy the game is not helpful to me. I like turn-based games. Not like this. I've made this complaint in the past, and I'm going to continue to until you start shaping up Mr. Games Industry or Mrs. Game Industry. I don't want to, be presumptuous here. Making a game in RPG Maker because the cost is low and you can't make a game another way is not a good reason to use RPG Maker. Doing it because you want to utilize the 2D style to emphasize aspects of art and gameplay that you normally wouldn't be able to in 3 dimensions, that wouldn't shine the right way, is a great reason. Blasphemous, for example, which is made in Unity, and I know I was as surprised to learn about that as you probably are now. It uses those 2 dimensions to occupy a certain space that it couldn't if it had 3 dimensions. The color palette, the aspects of the art, and the gameplay that normally wouldn't shine properly are immaculate in 2D. There is something about the way the particle effects go together, the smoothness of the animation, they're all fucking gorgeous. And it remains a game that I would tenderly and lovingly hate fuck if it were made real somehow. A portion of the bleakness would be lost if they tried to make it 3D. And that's not the case for Lisa. The style doesn't make use of the 2D space well at all. Most of the levels are bland. They're not bleak, but they're bland. And there's a difference between the two of them, I promise. If you're biting into a piece of dry white bread because it's all the food that you have, that's bleak. If you're biting into it because you don't like the lasagna mom made for dinner, that's fucking bland. And what gets me is that they could have done better, because I saw that they did better. The bathhouse is a really good example of a scene that, despite it being kind of placed weird in the game, it's well designed. And it's still annoying as shit to navigate, but it at least looks interesting. The dad spiders can absolutely spin an immaculate web and then go fuck themselves in it. But like a few other places in the game, it was at least nice to waddle around in it and wonder which limb I was going to end up losing next. Also, as a side note, I literally did not register that there was music in the game until near the end. And for some reason, that end music just slapped hard. but it was way too little too fucking late. The gameplay and the story are closely linked. And that's unfortunate in this case because they operate like two short chains hooked under the toenails and clamped to your nipples. The illusion of choice is one of my favorite tropes in art. It's been done well a number of times in film, books, movies. Those among you with some culture are going to know that a man chooses and a slave obeys. And you're going to know that until the very final defining moments, you at least thought that you had some kind of agency. And Lisa makes it clear this is not a player-driven experience from the beginning, but insists that you still pretend it is anyways. Ah yes, your choices are virtually irrelevant on a regular basis, says the game. Very well, I respond. Then shall I take that to mean you'll be telling the story? Ho ho ho, says the game. Nay, nay. We still want you to make those choices. And to which I respond, choices don't matter. And they say yes. And I say, on a regular basis. And they say, exactly that kind of basis. So, the game then tells me that I still need to make these choices, shoves its own head so far up its ass that it can do a visual inspection of its tonsils, and fucks off. I think what really irked me about the game was the impression that I got from people who push their glasses too high up on their noses that the game is supposed to be that way. It's called painful for a reason, they say, smirking and forgetting to sweep up all the straw that they leave behind. I am fine with difficulty enhancing a story. I'm totally cool with it. But I refuse to suffer for no reason, especially when someone tries to convince me that there is a way potentially to maybe not suffer. I was informed by one of my few friends that I shouldn't take joy throughout the game, so I didn't, except for all the times I was forced to take it that apparently mattered but also didn't, and because of my choice not to take joy, I'm constantly losing my ability to fight because I'm going through withdrawals. There were status effects in the game also, apparently, other than joy withdrawal, but that was shown one time in the beginning of the game and never a fucking again. And it wouldn't be a big deal if it was like the standard, fire and ice and prolapse status effects. What the fuck is weird? And I also have no idea if being cool is a good status effect because it happened to me in the game a couple of times and I never could figure out what it was actually doing for me. I don't have a gripe section, by the way, because the entire check is a gripe section. This game made me ask a question a couple of times of myself, and I'll ask it of you, hypothetically. I don't want an answer to this, I swear to God. When did RPG as a genre become the bukkake of any developer that has just written some sort of story for literally any game? Games like Divinity and Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age are RPGs. But RPGs are the only game where a story is a requirement, and there's a good reason for that. It's hard to compellingly roleplay if I don't know what role I'm playing towards. I don't need that in an FPS. The Doom Marine's motivation is genocide. Straight up genocide of demons. You're here, door's here, demons here, figure it out. And most Call of Duty protagonists, for example, are super motivated by removing all people who speak languages that aren't English. It's motivation without much of a story. That is what it is. An RPG, on the other hand, should lay out a world for me and then let me find my way in it. Even though Skyrim, I think, is a very watered down version of an RPG, it still does a good job because it says, okay, well, here you are. Do your thing, man. Figure it out. Fuck you. And then you go and do that. And it's great. One of the most important things about a lot of games, RPGs I think specifically, is replayability. I am on my 4th run of Divinity right now. I play Divinity outside of my streams. I enjoy it so much. And I still haven't tried all the things that I want to. It's extremely compelling to be able to make my own choices and have a developer that's written out consequences, both positive and negative. And Lisa doesn't give you any choices. It doesn't give you options. It skips straight to the consequences. And the only gradient of consequences is basically from horseshit to dog shit. You're going to suffer when you play the game. You're going to suffer reading the story, and you're going to suffer even trying to finish it. And if that's your idea of a good time, like if your idea of a good time is to get off work and sit around flicking your Prince Albert over and over again, the game's going to do you just fine. I, on the other hand, will take my masochism with a side of fries and a sense of completion.